It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Look, Rose, ends up. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. You're on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com and on the 106.9 The Fan mobile app. Listen to us in real time or go back and listen to our stuff not in real time. After the fact on the old podcast feed. Listen to past episodes. Those are available wherever you find podcasts or on our website and on our app. But today, focusing a lot on Utah State and Colorado State. The second time these two teams will have met. They play each other tomorrow afternoon. 2 o'clock tip-off on our sister station, KVNU, which means KVNU game day coverage will begin at 1 with J.D. Walker, Stockton Jukes, and Jalen Moore. And that game will be played in Fort Collins. And this is the Rams are a team that they kind of got, they lost to Utah State. One of the most efficient games for the Aggies jumped out early on Colorado State. At one point, they led by 20 points with just, with 12 and a half minutes to go in the first half. They had a 27-7 lead. The Aggies did. Built a strong gap there. Eventually in the second half, Colorado State kind of closes that gap a little bit, but it was way too little too late. Aggies cruised to victory 93-85 over Colorado State. But since then, the Rams have been playing some pretty solid basketball with 4 straight wins over Wyoming, Nevada, UNLV, and Air Force. So not necessarily against the top of the Mountain West Conference, but the Rams certainly are a team that play well at home and have had a pretty good track record on their home court. In fact, it includes a win over San Diego State on earlier in February. So this is an interesting matchup, an important one for Utah State, where there was something on the line for the Aggies on Wednesday against Boise to move into that first place position in the Mountain West. This game should have a little more desperation feel for the Aggies, because this could really cost them a position and still, some level of effect for the upcoming NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and it can negatively impact their potential in the Mountain West tournament if they end up dropping out of that two seed or 3 seed. Because if they win this game, they're guaranteed a 2 seed. Even if they lose, there's a chance they still end up with that 3rd seed, depending on later games, especially between Boise State and Colorado State. I think that's their season finale. But, yeah, there is still things on the line here for the Aggies. Win, and a lot of things are taken care of for not only the Mountain West tournament, but for the NCAA tournament. Getting yourself get yourself another quad 1 game, and get yourself secured in that 2 seed, get yourself a week off, kind of get the Mountain West tournament warm up with a game against Air Force, and then you can have the 2 seed. You play the 2 seed plays the winner of 7-10, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's correct.
Or 6-10, I forget. Yeah, maybe 7-10. I forget the specifics. The tournament's all wonky because it's 11 teams. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to make a bracket out of 11 teams. But you get yourself a pretty favorable matchup in your first game of the Mountain West tournament, that second round. If you don't, then you're having to sweat over whether or not you end up as the 3 or the 4. And if you end up as the 3, it's not that bad, because you still get a somewhat favorable game in your first game of the tournament. If you slip down to 4, you do get a bye, but then you got to play the 5 seed, a team that's pretty darn comparable, because that 4-5 matchup is going to be 2 of like Boise, San Diego State, Colorado State, and Utah State. 2 of those teams are going to end up in that 4 or 5 matchup, and that'll be a brutal first-round matchup for whoever it is. And the winner gets to play New Mexico, provided New Mexico doesn't get upset in the first round by somebody.
Right.
So it's not a great situation to be in that 4 or 5. It's not the worst thing in the world. You're going to have to play tough games in the Mountain West tournament no matter what. It's just how soon do you have to play those tough games? And that's what you're kind of working with there. You want to play the easier games so you don't have to play 3 grueling games in a row. Get yourself at least one slightly more favorable matchup. So that's a big key for this one. And then just pride. Like, this team just got lit up by Boise State. They're not going to be happy about it. Coach Calhoun is certainly not happy about it.
No.
And, I'm sure he's given his team a tongue lashing over what happened there. The way they weren't performing at all on defense. The way their offense was just not as aggressive. It was just a little too lackluster. So they're going to want to come out and play really hard against Colorado State. And as we talked about yesterday, the Aggies play really well after wins. There's really only one exception, and that was at Wyoming. And I think even then there were some injuries that they were dealing with, because I believe that was after the New Mexico loss. So there were some decent excuses for that. Of course, Wyoming was missing Obi Agbim, so they kind of went both ways in terms of injury. But in all other 4 of Utah State's losses, the game after goes down as like one of their top 5 or 6 performances in the season when you look at some of the analytics, like how well did they overperform or underperform expectations. They way overperformed expectations in the games after 4 of those 5 losses. So I think we can potentially see something similar here. Can't guarantee that, though, because it is a road game against a Colorado State team who is very good on the road. Like, the Rams have been clobbered in some of their road games against good teams. They lost by 15 at San Diego State. They lost by, 22? I think. Margin's so big I'm having to do math here. At New Mexico. And obviously they lost at Utah State. It ended up being an 8-point game, but they were getting, absolutely wrecked by 22 and really only pulled it slightly closer in garbage time. So this is a Colorado State team that has lost a bunch on the road, but then you turn it around, what do they do at home? Well, at home, they beat San Diego State. At home, they beat Boise State. At home, it was a little closer against New Mexico. So Colorado State, and a while ago when actually it was for the preview for the Colorado State game, I was doing the math about how much better Colorado State was as a home team, as they're better as a home team versus on the road by a pretty stark contrast. Not as crazy as Boise State's was, but they are still a much better team, especially defensively. That's one of the big things. They're better defensively, and so that's the thing the Aggies got to watch out for. Because the thing that really carried them the last time out was the fact that Colorado State just had zero answer for their offense. The Aggies got whatever they wanted, whatever shot they wanted, anywhere on the court, and they made it. Like, Alvin Ganarazzi had like 3 wide open dunks in a row.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much they were just toying with Colorado State's defense.
Yeah, he could roll to the rim with impunity.
Yeah.
Like, they did not slow him down.
And I think the issue there is just where Colorado State, both their offense and defense, just really they just weren't ready for Utah State's style of play. They weren't ready for their offense. Like, Coach Calhoun absolutely outcoached Colorado State in terms of preparation. 15-point lead at halftime. Colorado State was just all out of sorts. All of their normal offensive sets weren't catered to face a zone defense. Although in the second half, you could probably argue it was the other way around, or at least it was more even. Again, the last few minutes where the Aggies kind of took their foot off the gas, I don't know if I really want to credit that to Colorado State outcoaching and figuring out the zone. But
they still scored 55 points.
Yeah, they
in the
still
second
scored
half.
55 points, and you don't do that on accident.
Yeah.
So Colorado State has tape of themselves having a lot of success against this zone defense and against these defensive schemes. So they're going to be able to watch that. They're going to be able to watch what Boise State did to attack, because Boise State's the team that's had the most success attacking the Aggie zone over their 2 matchups. Of course, Fresno State has had a decent amount of success as well. They matched up pretty well. So Colorado State's going to come in here come to their own place with a good game plan offensively and defensively. Can Coach Calhoun outcoach them again in preparation? Throw something they haven't seen at him. There's I know the zone defense seems like it's simple, but there's a lot of intricacies to it.
There can be wrinkles.
Yeah, and so you can throw those things that haven't been on tape or things you haven't done as much. They probably overlooked because it only happened once on tape. Can you throw those things at them? Because they really made Nick Clifford a lot less impactful. Or this is a guy who can, he did score 24 points, but needed 15 shots to do that. Went to the free throw line. A lot of those were in the second half. Mm-hmm. And he grabbed 16 rebounds, but 14 of those were defensive rebounds. He's just grabbing all the rebounds, only had 2 offensive rebounds. So he wasn't having like this massive outsized impact. And especially his passing, where this is a guy who can get 4, 5, 6, 7 assists, where like if you focus on him, he's slinging it out to wide open guys because you focused on him. He had 3 assists. So he didn't have, again, he had 24 points, 16 rebounds. It sounds like the super impressive stat line, but he didn't have this superstar impact on the game, the kind that is forcing the Aggies to just collapse on him and only focus on him. It's just he went out and got 24 points because he's Nick Clifford, and he's going to do that. Or Nick Clifford. I keep saying his name wrong, and I even asked him how to pronounce it at media days, but I end up saying like Nick Clifford, like that. The I in Clifford ends up getting influenced by this first name. I have a problem saying his name. It doesn't roll off my tongue very well.
But yeah, he's a super dynamic player that can do a lot of different things.
Yeah, but I think Utah State limited that impact, and that's the key. Stat line impressive, but impact limited. And they're going to need to do that again, but Colorado State's going to be ready for that. Have him be more of an impact in the first half. Let's see, he had 9 points in the first half, was 3 of 7 from the field. And that's where he had 2 of his assists. And in the second half, he did get some points, but a lot of that was too little, too late kind of stuff.
Right. He was having to go up a really steep hill.
Yeah, because if he has the numbers in the second half that he didn't, if you swap those, the game could have been a lot different. But Utah State had great answers. At times, Colorado State was just having him sit in the corner. Like, I don't know, just none of their sets seemed to be ready to face a zone defense. But I very much think they're going to be ready for it now. So look more towards the second half of Colorado State as far as what they may end up trying, because that's where they had the success, and they're going to draw on that. And the Aggies have to make sure that they don't allow, like, I'd be surprised if they allowed a 55-point half, but a couple of 40-point halves, that's the kind of stuff that can lose you the game unless Utah State has another 93-point game, which sure, they can do that. Like we've seen, like last game aside, they've been averaging like 89 points over the previous 4 games.
High 80s, yeah.
So they can do that, but as I was saying with Boise State, you never want to have to rely on that. And look what happened with Boise State. They had an off night offensively. They couldn't get things going, and they lost by 20. You don't want to see that happen again here, so you want to make sure you're playing defense, hold them in the 70s, like they should have in the game in the Spectrum. And then as long as you have a decent offensive game, if the Aggies have a decent game on offense, they'll score in the high 70s, low 80s. And that'll be enough to win this game if they're playing defense. But much like I threw out all these, if they do that, they didn't do none of that against Boise. They did do a lot of those ifs in the games previously, but they need to make sure they do those here. But again, a big key is just going to be throwing new wrinkles at Colorado State. Don't assume that just because you waltzed through the game against Colorado State and got everything you wanted on offense, don't assume that's going to happen again, because it didn't happen against Boise. They got everything they wanted against Boise and made everything. And then the next game out, they couldn't make a dang thing because Boise was ready for them defensively. They knew how to counter, and the Aggies just weren't ready for it. They got outcoached, outplayed. So don't let that happen again here.
The last time these two teams met, Utah State outscored Colorado State 32-20 in the paint. Aben Gadarazzi had a great game. He was 7 for 7. As you had mentioned before, he had a number of just clear path rolls to the rim and dunked. He ended the day with 16 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists as well. So he was very active, very efficient. And Carson off the bench had a pretty solid day as well with 9 points, 4 rebounds, and a steal. Now, Carson did foul out. Mason was in some foul trouble, but Utah State built that big lead. They smacked them around early and just stretched that a little bit and just held on to it. Utah State maintained that good offensive efficiency. Not their best defensive game, but didn't need to be their best defensive game. But for Colorado State, Nick Clifford is the straw that stirs their drink, so to speak. But he does have some help. Jalen Lake, Kai Evans, those are guys that can consistently do some things. Jalen Crocker Johnson performed better than he normally does the last time that these two teams met. But one of the big differences that I see between Colorado State and Boise State is that Boise State has more players that can impact the game than what I see out of Colorado State. Nick Clifford is a special player. They have some other guys that are okay, but I don't see that they have quite the depth at the same level that Boise State has. That at least what we saw on Wednesday when Boise State took down the Aggies. And so, but you have to make sure that those guys don't start feeling it. That's the thing that we talked about on Wednesday, is that you don't want one of these rotation guys or a starter who sometimes has a good game. You don't want them to start feeling that momentum themselves, that they start getting hot, that they start feeling like, hey, I can impact this game and I'm going to play a big role tonight because there's NBA scouts here, and this is on national TV. Defensively, they have to try to make those other guys really work for anything. They're going to want to make everybody to work for whatever they have, but you can't let somebody that you hadn't really thought too much about get feeling it and then start to punish you, because once those guys start going, then you have to shift your attention to them. And now all of a sudden somebody else who you should be paying attention to normally, who's a better player, starts playing better because they have more space. They have a little bit more opportunity because you didn't pay enough attention to that fringe guy who now is starting to feel it with his home crowd behind him.
Yeah, well, like you look at that first game where in the first half, Clifford has his 9 points. A couple other guys have 5 or 6, You got to add up to 30 points somehow. But in the second half, 3 different guys scored in double figures in one half alone. Another guy scored 8. Kyan Evans had 14. Crocker Johnson had 11. Clifford had his 15. And Jalen Lake had 8. Like, if that's the kind of balance and volume they're getting from their guys over the course of a half, that's what you're talking about, where these other guys are having this outsized impact. And Evans is one who I think is particularly interesting to watch out for. Because while he is, I think, the third leading scorer, he's been kind of their secondary guy as of late. Jalen Lake hasn't had a whole lot of fantastic performances of late. He's got one game of 15-plus points since, January 14th, and that was their last game out, and it was against Air Force. So he's not putting up volume points for the most part. Kyan Evans, though, he's been in double figures every game and above 14 points for most of the games since, and including that game against Utah State. And he had 20 against Air Force. But, 14 against UNLV, 11 against Nevada, 15 against Wyoming, and 14 against Utah State. So he's a guy that I think you can look to more as their, at least recently, he's come more into his own as their secondary scorer. But, of course, Jalen Lake still going to be able to put up some points. And you may see Jalen Crocker Johnson. Maybe he'll have another similar game to what he did against the Aggies last time out, where he had, how many was it? 17? You could end up seeing that again, but if you're able to just limit those guys a little bit more, don't let Clifford go off for as many, don't let anybody else get over 13, 14, that's where I think you can find some good defense. Because, again, you're not going to stop Clifford, but just make sure these other guys don't have an enormous impact. And, again, just do more of what you did in that first half against Colorado State. Find a way to make sure that they're just befuddled. They just don't know where they're supposed to be and don't know how to attack the Aggies defense.
Yeah, and they had a lot of success. Utah State did with some of their pick and rolls with their big guys. Gaudrazzi rolling to the rim. Mason had a great game attacking the rim. And so, you expose your strengths, or flex your strengths, I should say, in the paint against this Colorado State team on Saturday afternoon. So can I take a quick time out here in the Full Court Press? We'll continue to look at the matchups, the storylines on this one, what's happened since the last time these two teams met, but also look at the rest of the Mountain West, because there are games tonight, there are games tomorrow, and how that can affect the standings with really about a week left to go of the regular season. So there's still a lot of movement that can happen in these standings in a very tight race from 1 through 6. Really, there could be still some movement in these overall standings. So each game matters. And so we'll take a look at what's on the line, what's on the schedule throughout the rest of the night tonight and into tomorrow for the rest of the Mountain West Conference when we come back here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. There's a story that came to us from a real customer, and I wanted to share it with you.
We came in looking for a scooter for our mother. The staff at Alpine showed us different options for scooters and battery-operated wheelchairs and helped us find one that was easy for her to handle and easy for us to get in and out of her car. They have fabulous customer service.
We love hearing about your experiences. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Happy winter. This is Mark at the Sportsman on Main Street, where we make winter fun. We are your ski, snowboard, snowshoe, and cross-country ski rental shop. Come in and rent for the day or longer and have a great time outside. We also have great deals on new skis, boots, bindings, underwear, and outerwear, so you are comfortable playing in the snow. See the Sportsman for the best deals, the best service, and most unique products you will find for the outdoors. Only at the Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan.
Adams Wealth Advisors' entire team says, thank you, Cache Valley, for voting them the best financial planner in the Best of Northern Utah competition. Honesty and integrity is the hallmark of Adams Wealth Advisors. Let them earn your trust today.
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind, whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit adamswealthadvisors.com or call 752-1702 to schedule a time with an advisor today. Please see adamswealthadvisors.com for more information on these recent awards.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204 today. See store for details.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan, streaming on 1069thefan.com and the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Reminder, KVNU game day coverage beginning tomorrow, Saturday at 1 o'clock. Get you ready for Utah State, Colorado State, and full play-by-play coverage. And then when the game is over, after the coach's comments, it'll be KVNU Aggie Call, your chance to chime in and talk about the game as it played out in Fort Collins. And so, yeah, it really comes down to it, I guess, for keys of this one, Jason, for me, is just to continue to attack the rim. Colorado State doesn't really have a great rim protector or a great interior defense. So that's something Utah State needs to get back to. They struggled with that against Boise State. So that's something they need to get back to, kind of their bread and butter there. And keep the pedal down, just to up the pace. They went at a slower pace against Boise State. They need to get back to just a quicker pace, getting into their sets and attacking what Colorado State wants to do. So those are my, I guess, offensive keys. But defensively, yeah, don't make them comfortable. Got to certainly limit the rotation guys, and be self-aware. Like, how are teams attacking this matchup zone? Because some teams are starting to figure that out. Don't let Colorado State play like they did in the second half the last time these two teams met.
Yeah. Well, and the thing with the zone, and I was thinking about this morning, about people talking about figuring out the matchup zone and supposedly needing to switch out of it, because if teams figure it out, then you have to stop playing the matchup zone. That's not how defensive schemes work. For one, like, is man-to-man defense, do you figure that out, and then do teams then switch to zone once your man-to-man defense is figured out? Like, sure, sometimes people will throw wrinkles, like it's pretty classic where a team's just getting murdered in their man defense, so they switch to like a 1-3-1 or something like that, just to mix things up because something's not working.
Just to confuse them.
But a lot of times that's just an in-game adjustment, and Utah State's done that in-game adjustment. It happens, but biggest thing, like when you say somebody figures out the zone defense, well, offense and defense is a cat and mouse game. And it's usually the offense figures out some way to attack the defense, and then the defense adjusts. They change things. This is why they watch film, and this is why they do all these walkthroughs, because they're like, this is how we're going to defend. It's not one matchup zone that plays everyone the exact same way, and once somebody figures you out, you're toast. It's about figuring out how to, attack certain offenses with the defense based on the personnel, based on it's part of the game plan. Like, you don't play the exact same defensive scheme. So if somebody's figured you out, and then you make some in-game adjustments when you can, and that's where coaching and also coachability of the players comes in, because they got to be able to execute those adjustments. So, and for the Aggies, like, they're going to have different ways to try and make sure that Colorado State doesn't have the same success in the second half. That same second half success they had in the previous matchup, they're going to try and make sure that doesn't happen again. So, in talking about, and I know I'm not trying to attack you since you brought it up, because it was something that I was thinking about this morning, about like people criticizing the matchup zone because people have figured it out, and it's like that's not how it works. You don't figure something out and then abandon it. You adjust it, because that's just how it's in every sport. There's that cat and mouse game between the offense and defense, trying to figure out new ways to defend and attack and all that. But yeah, with the Aggies, they're obviously going to need to figure something out with that zone, because it started to not work as well in the second half against the Rams. But yeah, offensively, I'll be interested to see if they find the same successes attacking Colorado State's ball screen defense as they did in the first game, because that's going to be a massive point of emphasis from Colorado State's game plan. They got worked in those ball screens, because that's where Aubin Gadarazzi got several wide open dunks. You get 25 points from the Aggies bigs, who normally average like 12 between them. So that's something that Colorado State's going to focus on, because the Aggies got a ton of free points off of poor ball screen defense. And then because they couldn't stop the Aggie bigs, and they couldn't stop the Aggie guards either, because Mason scores 22 points. And then Ian Martinez, who only played 19 minutes because he was in foul trouble in the first half, he still scored 14. And, Dayton Albury scores 10 points. Also drew a lot of fouls. Didn't make as many of his free throws, but in 16 minutes, he scored 10 points. Drake Allen had, 9 points and 6 assists. Like, the Aggies were working them in that ball screen, just simple pick and roll with the big, and they were just able to get whatever they wanted. So Colorado State's going to focus on that. So Coach Calhoun, who has at times shown a lot of genius in attacking defenses, because he did this against San Diego State, where he found out great ways to attack that very good defense, scored 79 points against them. He's going to have to be at his best there again, because Colorado State's going to be a good defensive team, especially at home. Got to figure out something new, because Colorado State's going to have something new. So you got to be ready for that and just, try and figure something out. It's a bit of a chess match, as they like to say.
Yeah. The last time these two teams met, Colorado State put up 33 3-point attempts. They are the leading team in the Mountain West with 3-point attempts per game, but not the leading team in 3-point percentage. In fact, they're 6th in the conference at that rate. So they will attempt to shoot a lot of threes, and when they try to find those soft spots in the matchup zone, but they're not always the most efficient at shooting those threes. So that's that perimeter defense still needs to be on point, because that's a team that shoots a lot from three every once in a while, they will hit, and things will go smoothly for them, especially in their own gym where they're comfortable and familiar. Then their odds of making those are a lot higher.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just saw that with Boise State. We've seen that twice with the Broncos now. They hit 14 threes in the first game against the Aggies. They hit, 9 or something like that? They shot like 40% from 3 against the Aggies at home. So, and Boise State is one of the worst shooting teams in the country from 3. They shoot like a little over 30. It's like 31% or something like that as a team. They're shooting a little bit better of late in conference play, but still only around 32 or so percent in conference play. They just shot way better in their building, and they had a great night shooting threes. And Colorado State is not a bad team when it comes to shooting threes. They're about average in the country. As mentioned, 6th in the conference, 162nd in the country. Like, that's a team that, are they elite three-point shooters? But they can bring it. You know, if last week, looking at their games from last week alone, they were shooting at about 40% from 3. So they were shooting at a very high pace, making 3-pointers at a very high clip last week. Yeah, multiple games, over 50% from 3, dang near 60% against Wyoming. And they shot well from 3 against the Aggies, 39%, and 40% at Air Force. So, like, the Aggies need to make sure that that Colorado State doesn't get comfortable. Because that's when, you make, like, if you're shooting 40%, you're making them pay, obviously. But honestly, though, if you look at that Air Force total where they shot 8 of 20, if Colorado State goes 8 of 20, you probably take that if you're the Aggies.
Yeah.
Because sure, it's 40%, but it's low volume.
Right.
So either hold them to a low volume of threes or find a way to make sure you can test their shots and make sure they're just making fewer of them. Don't let them hit 13 threes against you like you did last time out. But again, most of that was in the second half, because in the first half, the first half was everything you wanted from the Aggies out of that defense, because Colorado State shot 3 of 12 from 3. And a lot of that was the Aggies forcing them into more uncomfortable shots. So more of that.
Yeah, more of that would be good.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That would be good.
Have 2 of those halves, just hold them to 60. If you hold this Colorado State team to 60, the Aggies win. Just guaranteed.
So what other games are going on, and how could that affect the standings in the Mountain West? There is one showdown tonight late, 9 o'clock on FS1, Nevada at UNLV. So this is an in-state rivalry game. Nevada, the road team, is favored by 1.5 even though UNLV has a better conference record. But right now, these two teams are right next to each other in the standings. UNLV at number 6, Nevada at number 7 in the standings, and only one game separates them. So this game could have an effect. If Utah State stays in that number 2 spot, they would face the winner of 7 versus 10. So that this game matters in that aspect. And then tomorrow, looking at the pretty full schedule on Saturday, it starts at noon, Air Force at New Mexico. That's not going to change the standings. New Mexico's going to walk away with that one. They should, at least. And then at 2 o'clock, as we've mentioned, Utah State, Colorado State in Fort Collins. The game will be broadcast on FS1 for those who want to watch it. And then at 5, Boise State at Fresno State. Fresno's in a heap of trouble with players being dismissed because of gambling probes. Their leading scorers are out. Boise should take care of business in Fresno. And then at 6 o'clock on CBS Sports Network, San Diego State at Wyoming. You'd think the Aztecs should be favored in this one, but we've seen the Cowboys can be kind of stingy and tricky on their home court.
Yeah, it's classic trap game, but I think by now Brian Dutcher may be getting through to his team, like, just stop underperforming against bad teams. Because, like, San Diego State has a record, and you look at the analytics as well. You don't even need the analytics to figure this out, but it shows like San Diego State plays so much better against great teams. They've beaten Houston, but then they dang near lost to Air Force, dang near lost to San Jose twice. Were they close to Wyoming in one of their earlier games too? I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Haven't looked at their schedule. Yeah, they're 2-point game against Wyoming. So, like, these guys can't get out of their own way at times, and that just kind of speaks to some of the youth and experience. Now they're missing one of their key players in go out. Of course, that didn't hurt them too much against New Mexico, but San Diego State has just played way better against good teams, and then they play down to their competition. And if they maintain that same mindset and trend, then they're either going to lose or they'll do what they've done in all the other games. They'll be down by like 13 at half, and then they'll go on like a 16-0 run at some point in the second half, take the lead, pull it out in the clutch. Because, Miles Bird will start like 2 of 12 from the field, but then he'll hit like 3 straight step-back three-pointers because that's what Miles Bird does.
Right, yeah. Or Nick Boyd will start going.
Yeah, Nick Boyd, same thing. It's like both those guys will be like a combined 35% from the field, but then they'll both like hit 6 out of 7 shots in the clutch.
So, yeah, it's a busy schedule throughout the Mountain West Conference on Saturday. Really only one game. There's 2 games of note. There's the game tonight with UNLV and Nevada, and then there's the Utah State-Colorado State game. That's really the battle for number 2. It's really what that comes down to. Who's going to be the number 2 team in the conference tournament? Colorado State, they're a little bit further on the fringe about trying to be on the bubble. But if they were to win, this would help their resume. This would be a quad 1 win for them. No, excuse me, quad 2. Quad 2 win. But it helps make their case a little bit. They're much further out. I don't think they're even on the bubble consideration at this point.
Yeah, there's no NCAA tournament consideration for Colorado State. They're bid stealer or bust.
Right. They have to win the tournament or nothing.
Yeah, and even for them to be the number 2 seed, they have to win this game, and they also have to beat Boise on the road. And that's a tough task. 'Cause the thing is, if Boise wins that game, then you end up with the tie between the Aggies, Rams, and Broncos most likely. We went through all that math yesterday, and I don't have my notes. So I can't tell you for certain. I'm pretty sure Utah State wins that 3-way tie, but I have to double check.
Yeah. So bottom line, Utah State needs to win. If we're looking about the good of the conference, Utah State needs to win.
Yeah.
Because Colorado State's not really getting in. They have to win the tournament outright. So this would give Utah State another quad 1 win. It would improve the resume of the top teams in the league, and
potentially improve seeding.
Yes, that's true. As far as the game tonight, I guess Nevada. You want Nevada to win because they have the better net ranking.
Yeah,
so ultimately that helps Utah State.
Yeah, if you're Utah State, you want Nevada to win, but ultimately not a huge impact either way. So I don't think Nevada's dropping out of a quad 1 win unless they just truly collapse, although they are fairly close to that.
They're close.
Where are they at? I don't have their spot in the net. So, like, you'd prefer them to be that quad 1 just so you can say we have this many quad 1 wins when you're doing that quick glance at
Nevada's at number 68.
Yeah, so a loss pushes them a little too close, especially because they're going to lose at some point in the Mountain West tournament. Kind of assuming that. You never know, but 2 more losses without any more good wins could push them just a little too uncomfortably close to that. So you get the win over UNLV, and that should pretty much secure that as a quad 1 win. So that's better for the Aggies. But, of course, on the other side of that is that UNLV is the Aggies. There's a loss there, so you want to root for the teams that you've lost to almost more so than the teams you've won to. So, like, either way, you're getting some good and some bad. But I think you probably lean towards the Nevada because, like, UNLV's not falling into a quad 3 loss, but UNLV can go from a quad 1 win to a quad 2 win.
Yeah, Nevada. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's on the line throughout the Mountain West Conference tonight and tomorrow. What are your score predictions for Utah State, Colorado State? Let us know on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. We'll get to those, answer some of your questions, and get to some other things that are going on this weekend. It's a busy weekend. We got Jazz tonight. We got the hockey club is on a roll right now. And we got the Combine. Look at trying to get more details about when we might see Jalen Royals. So a lot of more things to discuss coming up on the Full Court Press.
Cold weather is here. Let the gold medal winner in the Best of Northern Utah's fireplace category help you update your home with Napoleon's full line of gas or wood-burning products. Building a new home? Let the professionals at Advanced Fireplace and Stove design and install your fireplace. From traditional to modern, Napoleon has something for every design and every budget. Install a product that will allow your family to make memories for years to come. Stop by at their showroom or visit them at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
A mouth-watering Cafe Sabor burrito, smothered in cheese and fresh guacamole with endless chips and salsa, plus your favorite drink, all for just $7.95. It's Locals Day at Cafe Sabor. Every Thursday, the drinks are bottomless, the chips and salsa are endless, and the burritos are amazing, all for just $7.95. There's nothing better. It's Cafe Sabor's way of saying thanks, Cache Valley. Don't miss Locals Day every Thursday at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station, 6th West and Center in Logan.
Need a reliable partner for your medical needs? Look no further than Triton Medical and Transportation. We offer top quality medical soft goods right here in your community. From incontinence supplies and oxygen needs to medical transportation. Whatever you need to stay comfortable and healthy, we've got you covered. Trust Triton Medical and Transportation, caring for our community with every step, every mile. Call us today at 435-557-6687 or visit us online at mytritonsupply.com. Triton Medical and Transportation, because your health matters.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Make sure you nominate your favorite businesses. Best insurance agent, best real estate, best burger, best pizza, best lawn care, whatever. Let's recognize the top people in our community in the Best of Northern Utah contest. The nomination phase is open right now. And only a few days left to get your nominations in. So make sure you go to bestofnorthernutah.com and nominate some of your favorite businesses. Give a shout out to those who have taken care of you with their great customer service, great products, whatever it was that you feel like needs to be recognized for. Go check that out and make your nomination known at bestofnorthernutah.com. Jason snuck out on us during the break. He is headed to Salt Lake City. He's going to the Utah Jazz game tonight. Jazz are taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Timberwolves will be without Anthony Edwards, who got another technical just the other night, and he has reached that threshold, so he is facing a one-game suspension for that. So no Ant-Man tonight in Delta Center. But let's get to some of the texts that have been coming through on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. And 9315 with a couple of texts coming through. Aggies must win tomorrow at 2. And then what wrinkles can you put in a matchup zone? I think Jason was kind of detailing that during that last segment. But sometimes it can be what looks like a matchup zone, but then it's a 2-3 zone or a 3-2 or sometimes it switches to man. But yeah, it's just aggressive and intentional that the Aggies have to be keep their foot on the pedal for the full time. They have to treat this game like it is a must win for Utah State. And then the Big Dogs 85, the Mary Had a Little Lamb 73. It's a score prediction from 9315. But 5338 texting in with a different opinion. I hate to be a bearer of bad news, but the 5338 Sports Reeducation Academy and think tank Cutting Edge AI Predictive Engine says the Aggies will drop another one tomorrow in Fort Collins, 77-73. So let me know what you think the score will be, how the game will play out tomorrow in Fort Collins. Tips off at 2. KVNU game day coverage will begin at 1. Utah State at Colorado State. And last I checked, now it's been a minute, but I'm going to pull this up right now and check it again. But Ken Palm has Colorado State winning this one narrowly, 77-76. So that was that's kind of in line with 5-3 through 8, but a much narrower margin there. But I feel like Utah State's going to get this win. Just the way this team responds following a loss. I know Colorado State plays well at home, and they're going to be tough to beat. They'll be a tough out. But I am impressed with how Utah State responds to losses, and knowing what's on the line here for this team to get this win. If they don't, they'll slip into third place, and leaves the door open where they could even fall into fourth place. And you do not want to be in that side of the bracket. There's still a slim outside chance the Aggies could finish first if they win on Saturday. So there's still that possibility. You could be finished first or second with that win. But if they lose, first is definitely out of consideration, and there's a chance it could slip into fourth place. So, the Aggies need to play with a lot more. Not desperation. That's not the right term, but intention. And feel like this one they can't let get away from them, and really try to dig in here as a team to get this win in Fort Collins. 435-339-0321. If you've got a score prediction for Saturday, how you think the game's going to go, what would be your key or keys to an Aggie victory? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. 435-339-0321 for what's going on with the Aggies. And now after Saturday, they've got a break. And as Coach Calhoun talked about earlier this week, as we heard him, they won't play again until next Saturday, and that will be in Logan against Air Force. So Aggies don't have to travel anywhere. He'll take some time to do one-on-one visits with his players. Got to get a feel for where they're at. Are they coming back? Does he want them to come back? Just going to get a feel for kind of where they're at, and because they'll have that opportunity, because they'll have some downtime. And as we know, in the current landscape of college athletics, you're not only recruiting like new people to come to your roster, you're trying to recruit current guys to stay on your roster. So Coach Calhoun and his staff will have a chance to do that next week. But certainly getting a win and having this team illustrate that they can still be on top of the Mountain West, and that they have a role in that for running it back and having even a better opportunity to do it next year, is a great selling point to keep some of the better players on this team continuing to stay in an Aggie uniform. So that's kind of what's on the line here moving forward for Utah State. But first things first, got to get past Colorado State, a team that plays well at home. This is the Aggies also respond very nicely after losses, and that's what's going to have to happen here for USU, a team that hasn't lost back-to-back games all year, a team that responds well and understands what needs to be done moving forward. So that's what's on the line here for these games to close out this weekend in the Mountain West. 435-339-0321 for those who want to chime in and give us your score prediction for the game. Speaking of the Utah Jazz, just mentioned them just a minute ago. They are playing tonight. They are taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And as I mentioned, Anthony Edwards he's had too many technical fouls. And so he is he's not going to be able to play tonight because he's been suspended for one game. And it's just too many. When you throw a ball into the stands and you get ejected, that's going to follow. But those kind of antics, that's what he did the other night against the Lakers. But when you do have those kind of antics, they add up and prevent you from being involved with your team. And it's a pretty clear rule in the NBA. You have a certain number of technicals, and then you get suspended. And trying to legislate behavior in the NBA that if you don't behave, then you will pay the punishment, not just the fine of having a technical or being ejected, but eventually you'll be suspended. And seems pretty early in the season to start seeing guys suspended for technical foul tally, but that's how it is with Anthony Edwards. So there's still quite a bit of basketball to be played. A full month and a half of regular season, almost 2 months, and he's already in that territory. So he's got to watch his P's and Q's and be a nice boy on the floor, because if he continues to get more technicals, then he could be suspended again. So that's a wild thing that's going on with the Utah Jazz opponent later tonight. And the other thing that's interesting about him specifically, reports are out today that Dallas kind of queried the Timberwolves to see if they would be interested in trading Edwards to Dallas in exchange for Luka Doncic. And Minnesota was pretty quick to say no, they were not interested in that. So interesting kind of contrast with what went on with the Lakers. But how different would that have been received in Dallas if they were getting a young player with upside in Anthony Edwards versus an older player with a lot of injury history on who still can perform at a high level when he's healthy, but shortly after he arrives, right after he arrives, he gets this another bad injury that takes him out for a while. So you just got to wonder how that would have affected the temperature in Dallas if that Anthony Edwards deal had been able to go through versus what happened with Anthony Davis. But all we're left with is just to wonder and ponder. But Minnesota, they were standing by their guy, where LA seemed anxious to take advantage of the opportunity. All right, we got to get done the timeout here in the Full Court Press. More to come, more of your thoughts and predictions for Saturday's game between Utah State and Colorado State next here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan.
This is Brent Wallace with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account, and if you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime, parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
A diamond is forever and is perfect to represent your love. For those special occasions, give her a natural, one-of-a-kind diamond, as unique as she is. Our exclusive brand of Needham Brilliant Diamonds are white in color, high in clarity, and are recognized for their precise cut. These diamonds are natural, untreated, and are the real thing. Show her you care enough to give her a diamond, an investment for generations to come. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. SC Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wees T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
The Napa Gold Filter Sale begins on, it's coming up soon. It's through March 15th. All Napa gold filters up to 60% off. Filters for your car, your truck, your semi, your tractor, backhoe, track hoe. We can keep going. How about for your ATV or side-by-side lawnmower? They have a lot of different filters in store. It's their big gold filter sale. It gets going and goes through March 15th. These specials are available now at your locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts. So go check those out. If you have any of those types of vehicles that need a filter, Napa can take care of you. It's Utah State taking on Colorado State tomorrow. And the tip-off is at 2. And pregame coverage on KVNU Game Day starting at 1. And let's get your score predictions. We had one, Aggies 85, Colorado State 73. Had another score come in, Colorado State 77, Utah State 73. I'm gonna go with the Aggies in the high 70s. I'll say Aggies 78, Colorado State 74. I think it'll be close. It'll be uncomfortable, but in the end, Utah State gets the win. And love to get if you got a different score prediction or different key to the game, let me know on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. A very busy day in the Mountain West on Saturday. A lot of different games with that Aggie game at 2. And as we said, we'll have it full play-by-play on our sister station, KVNU. But if you want to watch the game, 2 o'clock on FS1. And I'm going to cross my fingers, fold my arms. I'm going to pray, whatever is necessary. Hope that we get a different play-by-play announcer than who we had on Wednesday. That guy just, I don't know. He's hard, really hard to listen to, because boy, he wants to make every play the biggest play that's going to be a highlight reel that goes viral, and it never is. But we can hope for something different, can't we? Anyways, we'll find out together at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. But that's going to do it for this hour. Stick around. The NFL Combine is taking place this weekend. Jalen Royals had some opportunity to meet with the media and get some questions. We'll talk about what they're saying about Jalen Royals at the NFL Combine next.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. The NFL salary cap set to rise nearly $23 million. That will raise it to $280 million in 2025. A big jump. But the real takeaway isn't that the NFL is booming. We knew that. The real lesson is when you have a chance to extend a star player, don't wait. The smartest teams planned ahead. Detroit, they locked in Penny Sewell, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown before the market shifted. Philadelphia did the same with their receivers, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Look at the Cowboys. They delayed Dak Prescott's extension, CeeDee Lamb's extension, and probably Micah Parsons. The Bengals may have made the same mistake with Jamar Chase. With the receiving market surging and the cap rising every day, they wait, inflates his price tag. The salary cap will keep growing. We know that. That's inevitable. The question is whether teams will stay ahead of the curve or let that slight indecision cost them millions in the future. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.